get back to it, but it's okay. It's great. Can I run this? Okay, everybody please take your seats. All right, good. I'm Evan Smith, the editor of Texas Monthly. If you've been to a museum or a gallery recently and seen paintings of vaguely religious-looking figures, some with more than two eyes, sometimes surrounded by bugs or moths or other crawly creatures, and usually encased in a deep shade of red, you're familiar with the extraordinary body of work of Julie Speed. Born in Chicago and raised all over the country, the 53-year-old is a self-taught artist. A brief stint at the prestigious Rhode Island School of Design made her think twice about the benefits of a formal course of study. To make money over the years, she worked in a sawmill, trained racehorses, whatever it took, until 1978, when she moved to Austin with her husband, Fran Christina, the longtime drummer of the fabulous Thunderbirds, and devoted herself to making art in earnest. Ever since, she's been a favorite of casual collectors and art snobs alike in Texas and beyond. Immensely talented, passionate about her art and craft, Speed is the hottest artist working in Texas today, and we're lucky to have her as our guest. A conversation with Julie Speed on this edition of Texas Monthly Talks. Julie Speed, it's a pleasure to see you.
Oh, good. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting us into your studio, an extraordinary room filled with great art. I want to ask you about life as an artist today. Open-ended question, but what's it like being an artist right now?
I get up in the morning, grab my coffee, I walk from the house out to the studio, open the studio door, sit down, drink coffee and paint. I usually work from 10 to 5, stop, take a nap, eat dinner, and then go back to work until about 10 or 10:30 again. And
wow.
Then we usually stop and mix martinis and play Scrabble.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Where do I sign up for this? It sounds
yeah.
pretty good.
I've had real jobs before, and I don't think the angst of being an artist can compare to the angst of shoveling stalls. I was the world's worst waitress, so I'm very thankful to not be doing that anymore. Right. I wasn't very good at it.
Do you mind being by yourself as much as it sounds like you are?
Actually, I like being by myself. It's being in crowds that is more difficult for me.
Really?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I always I just go off in the morning and go out in the woods all day, and wow. So I'm very used to it.
Where do you get your inspiration?
It's not exactly, it's not like an idea in the sense of an intellectual thought. I just sort of blank out. Usually I'll be in the bathtub, and is the best place for them to come.
Is that right?
And just sort of just lie back, and then ideas will appear on the inside of, they're not ideas, they're more like a little parade that goes by of images, and then I pick out an image that I want to keep. And usually when the images come, they'll come in a batch, and so, and then they might not come again. And so I'll just make little sketches or take notes and put them in a drawer until next time I'm ready to start a painting.
Right, and so often these ideas, or this parade, as you describe it, results in not just one painting, but sometimes more than one painting.
Yeah, and say, sometimes they come so fast I can't, I wish I could paint faster. The paintings take a month and a half.
They do. Each painting takes a month and a half.
Yeah, for the large ones, a month and a half too. I've spent up to as much as 9 months, solid 10-hour days on one painting. That one, I remember, I knew it was time. I remember coming in the studio in the morning and putting on the light and bursting into tears. I was like, right? I think I'm through with this already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've read heard you say that you sometimes look for this, it's a rip in the veil, I've heard you describe, where you're trying to get behind this block.
Yeah, except for you can't try. Yeah. That's the catch-22. What you have to do is ignore it. Like a cat will come to you if you ignore it, but if you go, kitty, 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 usually it'll go, go away.
Walk away. So inspiration is not something that, for your, in your case, you can just go and look for. You have
No, and if you do, you can't find it.
Right.
So.
And we were visiting before we started talking here about whether you're done when you think you're done.
Yeah.
And the fact that you may get a painting done and then As you've said, you have a thing you do. You hang the painting in your studio for a while and stare at it.
Yeah, so I can look at it and like the one with the moths there. It's like I might decide it needs 3 or 4 more, or, you know, that the dog's teeth need aligning, or, you know, something. And then I'll come back and fix it. And the trouble with, if I don't hang them here, if someone takes them home, then I have to go get them off people's walls.
Do you ever walk into somebody's house, a person who you know has bought a painting of yours, and look at it and go, ugh?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
And then I have to take it back.
Right.
I actually took one back and destroyed it once.
Oh, is that right? Tell that story.
I was over Sean Colvin's house and went in the guest bathroom, and there was this print that I had done in like 1976 or something. I couldn't believe where she'd gotten this thing. I just hated it. And she had it hanging in the bathroom, so I took it off the wall and said, Sean, I'm taking this home. You can't have it. And she went, okay.
Did you give her a replacement?
I gave her credit.
Toward another painting?
Yeah.
Good businesswoman that you are.
She's got a whole lot of paintings.
Right. Well, in fact, you did an album cover, or a piece of your art was the album cover for her album, A Few Small Repairs.
Right.
How did that happen?
She bought a painting at a gallery and was working on the album, and asked the gallery for my phone number, and they gave her my phone number, and she said, you know, can I use one of your paintings for an album cover? And I said, of course, you know, I love your work. And so she came over and we just went through the file of paintings, and she picked out the one she wanted. And
she didn't know you, you didn't know her, although you lived in the same town.
No, but then we've become really good friends since.
Since then, yeah.
Yeah, and she wrote the song, Sonny Came Home, to the painting.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
What a great tribute.
Yeah, it was nice.
You know a little bit about music. Your husband of how long? Many years.
We've been together since we were 16.
Is that right? Frank Christina was the longtime drummer in the Fabulous Thunderbirds.
Right, for about 25 years.
Yeah, but though, as you told me, he's happy no longer to be doing that.
Yes, very much.
Retired from that. So you spent a life not only around your art, but also around his art.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I was +1 for 25 years, you know, it was like...
How did you enjoy that?
You know, he was gone a lot. That was difficult. Being on the road, everybody thinks, oh, it would be so much fun. Right. It's fun for a week, and then you are so sick of it, you can't stand it.
Yeah.
You really...
Enough. And so you traveled with him a fair amount, did at the time?
I'd try to, like, go to Japan and, you know, skip Peoria. No offense to Peoria.
No, I don't think we were air in Peoria. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's okay. You grew up in Chicago?
No, only born there.
Born
there? Never lived there. We just...
Spent how much time there then?
Maybe 6 weeks.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah, it was...
so it's kind of like a technical thing. You're from Chicago.
It was a technical thing, you know.
Where'd you go then?
Then Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. We mostly moved around the East Coast when I was growing up. And then Kentucky, California, Michigan. We moved here from Nova Scotia.
Right. What was it like moving around so much when you were growing up?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it was funny, all that moving, and I was always really ready to go to the next place. But then when I got to Austin, boom, that was it.
You knew you wanted to stay.
That's it, I'm through. I never want to go anyplace again. And then I got the studio, and now I really don't even want to go on vacation anymore.
Ever, just want to stay here.
Yeah, I just want to stay here.
Before you came to Austin in 1978, but before that, as you were getting older, moving toward that point, you made an attempt to go to art school, right? You went to Rhode Island School of Design for
I went
a brief period.
A brief period. Yeah, it was, back there it was like early 70s, and the whole... They just wanted you to express yourself, but the only way that it was okay for you to express yourself was large, abstract, color-filled paintings or conceptual art. And first of all, I'm only 18. I don't really have a lot to express here. And second of all, I thought I should learn to paint first. And
then to have ideas about painting second.
Yeah, and they just weren't, they didn't want to teach it. That whole idea of art as self-expression, and which I don't agree with. I think that's a whole, I don't know if it's peculiarly American or not. But I think the idea of the personal distracts from the universal in art.
So without the training that some would say is the formal training of art school, how did you learn to be a painter?
Well,
Do you learn to be a painter?
Well, oh yeah, you have to. I mean, there's a lot of just technical stuff
Right.
that you need, and I'm still learning. And I taught myself, but I wouldn't recommend it. It was, I really could have saved myself a lot of trouble to just go find somebody to apprentice
Do it for you.
And,
How did you know how to teach yourself?
books.
Yeah.
Books.
Talk about that a little bit.
I just go get books and look at them and go to museums and, look from this far away and try to figure out, I could get technical books that would, tell me, like, don't mix this with this, or, you'll die.
Right.
Or the paint, all the paint will fall off the painting, or, those
Right.
kind of things. And then I could just sort of figure out from looking at paintings up closely, how it was done.
Were there painters or artists you admired growing up
Oh.
or at that period of self-teaching?
Mantegna, people you wouldn't think, Maurice Sendak.
Maurice Sendak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Higgledy Piggledy Pop is probably, one of the greatest. The drawings in there are one of my favorite ever. A lot of Persian and Indian miniatures. Australian Aboriginal painting has been a huge influence. Indian miniatures, a lot. Lucian Freud, Francis Bacon, Kazimir Malevich.
So it's a real range of people.
Yeah.
Right. So has it been the case that in the course of your life as an artist, you've met any of these people whose work you admired?
No, I haven't. But when
Hard
I
to meet
was-
Magritte, actually.
Yeah, it's
these days.
a lot of them. Well, I would have loved to have gone drinking with Francis Bacon, but
Right.
he died about 3 years ago, and I'm never going to get my chance.
Too bad.
Yeah, too bad.
Yeah. What about your travels then, if not to see people whose work you admire, but to museums? I know that you're a big fan of the Menil in Houston.
Oh, absolutely, one of my favorite museums on the earth. I think that she just collected with a sense of humor. It really, it just shows itself throughout the collection. It's pretty amazing. And then my other favorite museums are sort of just the ones you'd expect.
Well, tell us.
The Uffizi is like, I mean, I could spend months there wandering around.
Do you think that Texas, for a state with the art community of artists and patrons that it has a sufficient number of good museums?
There's pretty extraordinary, I mean, the museum in Houston, the Museum of Fine Arts is just amazing. And in Fort Worth, my God, that whole section of town, that's all just different, the Kimball and the...
One after another.
Yeah, it's really pretty amazing. I'm hoping we can really get the Austin Museum up to a level and get a building built finally, and
Right.
And a level to compete with other Texas cities. I mean, Beaumont has a beautiful little museum.
Right. Well, it's nice to have such a range of places to visit.
Yeah.
Do you feel like museums are important to the life of an artist? Obviously, what you do is make art.
Oh,
and that's all it's about, but,
Absolutely, and not just, and actually I get as much inspiration in the natural history museums as I do in the art museums.
Well, you mentioned to me that you had been to the Houston
Oh yes,
Natural
to
History
the
Museum.
to the butterfly atrium. That was that was incredible. And then down below the butterflies, they have all the creepy crawlers in tanks, and they have blue scorpion this big, and they have these assassin bugs that stick their prey like with their noses. So there's all these little crickets in there going ah, and they're all huddled in one corner. And I mean, it's very dramatic.
My sense is that world of little kind of creatures and things really interests you. And of course, some
yes.
of them show up in work that you do. Why?
I don't know. From the time I was a kid, that was like, a magnifying glass, and I could like spend the whole day in the backyard looking at bugs under the... But it's not just bugs. It's any kind of detail. Patterns on quilts, the steam on the walls of the shower I'll look at for, I can spend a long time staring off into...
And again, a lot of those little details details like that show up in the work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of things that you know by touch, like a dog by touch, a horse by touch,
Right.
another human by touch. But the little animals, you can't stroke them to know the shapes of their bodies. So the only way you can memorize and incorporate the shapes into your is with a brush.
Right. Before you actually sit down to paint something, do you literally sit there and go, I'm going to draw this 100 times until I've got it exactly right?
I don't, with the oils, I don't have to do that because I can paint over the oils and wipe out what's wrong.
Right.
So I'll do, we'll practice. I mean, I'll sketch a little bit
Right.
to get sort of, and then, close wing, open wing. So I'll do sketches of this, but just like quick, like
Right.
shapes.
Is there something about oils that you like particularly?
The oils are the most complicated and the most rewarding, I think. But I couldn't do them all the time, so I divide up when they get so I just can't do the concentration that it takes to do the oils anymore. I will put this all away and take the table out and nail on big pieces of plywood, and then I'll open up that trunk there and take out all my stuff for collage, and then I'll just cut and paste for a month. And it's a great brain vacation from working in the oils because the way you think about it is a completely different way.
Exactly.
And then I'll do the constructions.
Let me come back and ask you about some other aspects of your paintings that seem to recur in addition to the details and the creepy crawlings, as you call them. There seems to be a little bit of a religious, again, seemingly, maybe it's not intended, maybe it is intended, a religious aspect to some of your paintings, not just the figures, but the sort of overtones of the painting. Is that right, and why?
Well, there's a bunch of different ways of. I also do a lot of generals and soldiers, and it's sort of the guys with hats that tell you what to do. So, but mostly it's that I get to paint with that cadmium red deep that I really like. And
It's that simple.
it's not. It's more complicated than that.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's really. If they didn't wear red, I probably, then I probably wouldn't paint them.
Wow.
So
there's nothing about religion that particularly speaks to you?
Oh, there is. I'm very interested in religion also. But it isn't, just that I'm making a point about that. It's a lot of it's about design.
Right. And so it's really just aesthetically, it's pleasing to you to do that.
Yes, there is nothing that I get a charge out of more than loading up that paintbrush with that cadmium red deep. It's just a charge for me. And you wouldn't really get to use it that much. Like, who do you do portraits of? Like Santa Claus,
I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head. I guess that's right.
Hookers.
Hookers. Well,
Yeah, Santa Claus and hookers.
could be a growth area for you, actually.
Yeah.
Do you think that people sometimes misinterpret the religious-themed or seemingly religious-themed works you do as about something other than you intend? And do you care? Let me rephrase that. Does it matter to you how people see your paintings?
I don't have any control over that. It was real, when I had the show at the Austin Museum, and people wrote in questions, and comments, and there were a lot of people that wanted to save me. There were
Really?
Yeah, and there was mother and daughter wrote in together and wanted to know if I'd been molested by a Catholic priest, and people would see things that it would never occur to me.
Right.
There was one painting of a girl holding up her picture, and she had blood on her hands because she was going, look at my picture, and somebody saw that as a portrait of a child molester, and they wanted to know about that horrible child molester in that painting. But I like that people can get all these different interpretations. It's not like there's an answer.
I guess that's what art's about, is that everybody comes to it with his own or her own notions of...
It's about the
meaning.
Questions.
Right.
Yes, it's not about the answers.
Right. And similarly, the artist and the art need to be separate. I
Yes,
believe.
absolutely.
I read that you had once said, I don't care if Picasso was a terrible person.
Yeah.
His art was great, and that's all I really care about.
It is, and I think that this sort of cult of personality actually takes us away from the art, distracts from the art. If I had my way about this interview, I wouldn't be here. There'd only be pictures of my paintings, and you'd be talking.
Yeah.
Because I think
Low ratings for that show. But seriously, you don't feel an obligation to be a public figure. The thing that's public is your art.
Right. If I could get away if everybody would put my paintings out there without me, I would much prefer that choice.
Well, this will be the last time.
I don't think I'm going to get that choice.
Julie Speed, the final interview.
Right.
Big billing for us. What about your use of eyes in your paintings? Anybody who knows your paintings or sees your paintings appreciates that you have this thing about sometimes a third eye or even a fourth eye, where they're just these very particular, it's a particular style. Talk about that.
Yeah, when I want to show, there's a couple reasons. When I want to show that someone's thinking about more than one thing at once, then I'll give them an extra eye. So when you look at it one way, you can see one expression, look at it the other way, you see another expression. And another thing I like about it is when you look at someone with three eyes, that you get this sort of dislocated feeling, and it gives you a headache after a little while. And my theory on that is that your brain has assumed that humans only have two eyes. And by forcing your brain to question its own assumptions, your brain is upset about that. But it's my sort of cockamamie theory that it's a good idea to question your assumptions.
Yeah, and get a reaction out of people. Are there particular kinds of paintings that you, of all the ones you do, other than the ones with cadmium red, that you enjoy doing more than others?
I always enjoy doing the painting I'm working on now, or
At the
the
moment.
next painting. Yes.
Right. Okay.
The
So
most.
what are you working on right now?
Now I'm working on this guy with the bees over his head.
Right. And talk about the story of that painting.
I don't know. I just saw this guy with bees over his head, and so I've been painting it. He doesn't really, if I wanted to, I could connect it up, I suppose. One time when I was a kid, I was walking on an island, and I stepped in a nest of ground bees, and it was just like the cartoons. The whole hive came out and surrounded me and stuck all over me, and I had to jump in the river and get them off. And
You don't see them any worse for the wear.
yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with it, because I like bees.
Right.
And
But there's that red.
there's the red. Yes, I do get to use. And this guy's funny. I don't know where he came from, because he's just the cheeriest looking guy that I have painted. I don't know. It's so funny because I'll work on them and they'll be just not there, not there, not there. And then one day something happens and I go, whoa, there you are. And it's like, I go, hi. And so it's
And it's not something you've worked up to in your own mind. It just sort of happens.
it just sort of happens, because I don't really know what kind of
Right.
who they're going to be until they get there.
Yeah. Now, when will this be done?
Probably a couple weeks. He still needs a lot of details, and the bees need their wings.
Yeah. Well, it looks done to me.
Come back in a couple of weeks. You'll see when it's really done.
Very good. Well, Julie Speed, it's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, it was nice talking to you,
It all went
too.
by pretty quickly, didn't
Yeah,
it?
it wasn't
And we'll make
bad.
this the last one, I promise. Thank you very much.
Thank you.